Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business since 1994. That is a very long time getting people in shape, and I really enjoy it. I love the energy of the gym atmosphere, so it has been a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, let me thank Jonathan and Lyn Gildon of the Gildon Group at Realty Pros. They currently have over 275 star reviews on Zillow. They are absolute grinders in the field of real estate. If you're looking to sell or buy a new home or business, give them a shout. You know, customer care in that regard is so important. I was on Twitter the other day and I saw this building for sale, and a real estate agent posted it on Twitter, and I thought, oh, that looks like it could be something for the gym. And so I made a comment. I said, hey, is this commercial? No response back. I'm like, if you're going to post stuff, you have to imagine you're doing it for hits. I don't know. Stuff like that just really irritates me. Anyway, these guys don't do that. Jonathan has his phone with him. He checks things. He's on the ball. So you know what? Check him out if you need a professional. Their information will be in the show notes. So someone asked the other day, they said, hey, can you break down a great strength training workout for a triathlete? And that is a person that does swim, bike, and run. I said, sure, I'll do that. So listen ahead. Let's talk about that. So let's take the swim. We'll just take it in the order of events that they do. So the swim is predominantly done via freestyle, and those muscles mostly involved are the pectoralis major and the lats. So the pec major and lats is in the involvement of scooping up the water and then pulling the arm towards you. All right, so that's called the pull portion of the stroke. So think pecs and think lats. All right. Then as your hand gets to about your hip bone or so, you start to push through the water, and that is using your tricep muscles. And then your hand exits the water somewhere past your butt, and you begin to lift up your arm, and that is called the recovery portion of the stroke, and that is predominantly done with your shoulders. All right, so we're looking at the pectoralis major, the lats, the triceps, and the delts thus far, and that is for the upper body portion of the stroke. Now, to keep yourself float, you need to kick, all right? So that is predominantly done with the glutes and hamstrings doing the flutter kick. And if you point your toes appropriately, you're using a little bit of your gastrocnemius or your calf muscles, all right? So those are the muscle groups there. So if we just look at those, a great pec exercise could be the fly for the primary, meaning the single joint portion of it, or the chest press or bench press for a compound movement. If you're looking for the lats, to train your lats specifically for this, you can do a pullover exercise, which is the primary for the lats, or you can do a pull up or pull down for the compound of your lats. Now we'll move on to the triceps. So if you're looking to work your triceps from an isolation standpoint, you can do a tricep press down or tricep extension. Or for a compound movement, you can do a dip exercise or any of the presses we've already mentioned. For the deltoids, you can primarily work that through a shoulder raise, specifically a side raise, or through a press of an overhead press. Then when we get to the lower body portion, so the flotation portion of the swim, as I said, we have hamstrings and glutes. So for the primary for the hamstring, you could do a leg curl. For the compound, you could do a leg press or a squat. For the glutes, for the primary movement, you can do a glute bridge or hip abduction, or you can do a leg press or a squat. And for the gastrocs or the calves, you can do a heel raise. All right. So that would specifically work you for swimming, work your muscles for swimming. Now let's go on to cycling. Cycling is predominantly lower body involved, and it's predominantly quads and hamstrings, a little bit of glutes on the pole stroke through, and a little bit of gastrocnemius, the old calf muscles for the pole stroke. But you are going to have a little bit of upper body on the bicycle. It depends on where you position yourself on the handlebars, but the pecs are kind of worked in a static motion of holding the bars, as are the biceps and the triceps on the old bicycle. All right. So if we're working our way through the workout, we can go to the big quads, which are really the prime driver of cycling. So the isolation exercise best for that would be a leg extension. If you don't own one of those, it could be a single leg raise. And the multi-joint or compound exercise for that could be a hack squat or a leg press. For the hamstrings, as I already said, for swimming, but the hamstring isolation exercise would be a leg curl that could be performed on a machine or with a Swiss ball or a yoga ball. And the compound again could be the squat and or the leg press. Now the glutes, once again, the isolation exercise could be a glute bridge or it could be a hip abductor. And the compound could be a squat or a leg press. The gastrocnemius, the calf muscles, once again, can be targeted doing a good old-fashioned heel raise exercise on a machine or with a dumbbell or body weight. And for the old upper body, so once again, as I said, the pectoralis majors are worked kind of statically on the bike, depending on where you hold the handlebars. But that can be done with the fly exercise for the isolation or a bench press or chest press for the compound. The triceps can once again be worked in an isolation manner with a tricep press down or a tricep extension, and a compound exercise with a dip or any version of the chest press. The biceps can be worked from a isolation standpoint with a bicep curl or from a compound version of doing a pull up, pull down, or even a row. Now, with both of these, we want to make sure our core is nice and strong. So crunches are a great exercise for the transverse and rectus abdominals, as are a plank. And then, of course, the lower back, the erector spinae, especially with cycling, can be strengthened from doing deadlifts from a compound standpoint or back extensions from an isolation standpoint. All right. Please don't be getting bored with me at home listing all these exercises because I'm going to make this fun here real quick. I promise. All right. Now, we've swam, we've biked, we're almost done with our triathlon. It's almost time to get our medal. It is almost time to stand on the podium and pose for pictures that we're going to post on Facebook. We have to get through the run first, though, okay? So now we're up to the old run. What muscles do we use when we run? Well, we use very similar muscles as we use when we cycle. They're a little bit different as far as which are the agonist and the antagonist, meaning the primary and what opposes them. but they're still essentially the same muscles used. All right. So once again, we have the great hamstrings that are going to pull us through on the run stroke. And that can be worked from an isolation standpoint of a leg curl and a compound movement of a leg press and or squat. Then you have the great quads, which actually work more for dampening and landing the blow. So they are kind of worked eccentrically when we run. All right. And the quads, once again, can be worked with the leg extension from an isolation standpoint or a squat or a leg press from a compound standpoint. Now we're also using our glute maximus when we run. So from an isolation standpoint, we can be doing some form of a glute bridge or abduction. And from a compound standpoint, we can be doing a squat or a leg press. Now we have to think about those little calf muscles that are helping us land and helping us push off of our toes. So once again, we have the great gastrocnemius. All right. And they can be worked from an isolation standpoint, doing a nice old-fashioned heel raise. All right. Now, we don't use a whole lot of upper body when we run. Doesn't hurt to have upper body, but we don't use a lot. But once again, we're using our core muscles because we're absorbing a lot of energy into our core. So it's good to have a strong core. So once again, we can work our abdominals by doing a good old-fashioned crunch exercise or plank. And we should always be working our spinal erectors with a good lower back exercise. Okay, so depending on what you like, or if you like a combination of these things, the isolation exercises, and isolation just simply means we're working one of the muscle groups at a time. That's what it means. Or compound or multi-joint exercises are combining more than one of the muscle groups, all right? So if we're keeping score at home, the isolation exercises would be the glute bridge or hip abductors, the leg extension, the leg curl, and the heel raise, the pec fly, the pull over, the shoulder raise, this is for all of it, swim, bike, and run, the bicep curl, the tricep press down, the crunch, and the spinal erectors, so the low back extension. Now, the routine using compound exercises, combining everything, would be a squat or a leg press, because it's pretty much the same exercise, a deadlift, a bench press or chest press, a pull up or pull down, and then you would want to do your core again with the crunches and the spinal erectors or the back extension. And again, you could do a combination of those exercises. You could split it up, meaning on different days, and do all of them. That's fine. But those are the muscle groups and the exercises that will prepare you and prepare the muscles for a triathlon. Have any of you listening picked up on any trend? Have you? I'm like pausing, waiting for like people to raise their hand, because I'm kind of used to that. And unfortunately, I'm just staring at my computer with the little lines going up and down, show me when I'm talking. Well, here is the answer. That's just a full body workout. So pretty much if we're working out normally on a regular basis, including all of what we call the 10 major muscle groups, you're ready for a triathlon that way. And I guess I'm a little bit poking fun, but not really, trying to get people to understand. I've read a lot of different workouts and books that people write, and I'm not going to name names because I do think that these books have great value, and I really do enjoy reading the authors and like the authors. But the one thing that always kind of makes me giggle a little bit is when they break up these sport-specific workouts, and there's like a section of them, they go through their whole spiel, and usually the spiel is the best part of the book, right? In my opinion. And then they get to the workouts, and it is so funny how like almost every workout is the same. Like training for baseball, you need to work your pectoralis major for the forefront of the stroke and make sure that you work your deltoids for the follow through on the back. And you have to work your core because the energy goes through this. Swimming for surfing, you have to make sure that you're working your latissimus dorsi because the pull when you stroke is critical, and the push through is your triceps. Oh, by the way, you got to work your core. I mean, it's all the same. And I've seen so much sport specificity over the last 20 years that I shake my head a little bit because it's being overdone. It's flat out being overdone too much. There is way too much sport specificity being used for not what it was intended for. All right. So sport specificity means that if you want to get better at a sport, you have to practice the sport. That is absolutely 100% true. That is absolutely true. When I was in school, it was as simple as if you want to be a good runner, you have to run. And cycling isn't going to necessarily make you a good runner. Matter of fact, it could hurt you a little bit. Not in the general sense, but in the very specific sense. In other words, some people thought, well, he's in good aerobic shape. He's going to be good at every aerobic sport. That's not necessarily true. You have to practice the sport to be better. And that's a fact. I'm not poking fun at sport specificity. Sport specificity is an absolute real thing. What I am poking fun at is one of the organizations, and I'm not going to name names, has been way guilty of taking that concept, that principle, which is true, and putting out a lot of people, a lot of strength coaches that are then taking that too far into the sports world. So now you have people saying, so if you want to hit a baseball better, you got to get a bar that looks like a bat, and everything you do, use this bar that looks like a bat, and it should be the same weight of the bat. And I'm like, or how about you go play baseball? Or let's throw something that looks like a football that's weighted and blah, 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 or go throw your football. Because you know what? This kind of thinking is a problem for two reasons. One, it's not working because the idea is that training specifically for the sport is in one way supposed to help athletes not become more injured and better at their sport. Is it making them better at their sport? I don't think so because they're getting injured all the time. If you look at the injury rates among amateur and professional athletes, they are so much higher now than they ever were 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, it was a threefold process. You worked out in the off season and you got in shape. You then went into your season and you practiced your sport and you recovered in between. Then you went into a recovery or off season and recovered, and then generally got back into shape or stayed in shape. And you know what? It worked really, really well for many, many, many decades. Now athletes aren't getting a rest. And during the season, they're doing more sport-specific strength exercises when they should be working on flexibility, or they should be resting, or they should just be taking a day off, which is resting. But that's not what is happening, all right? And then the second thing is, are people getting better in general and enjoying working out? I don't think so, because now people are almost being forced, when I say people, I mean athletes, to go to the gym and do a lot of these exercises that, quite frankly, are a waste of time. Worse than a waste of time, because again, people are getting hurt, all right? I had a guy not so long ago, maybe 10 years ago. I trained him for a while, and he's a good golfer, a very good golfer. He's a pro golfer, in fact. And, like a lot of people and a lot of men in general, sorry guys, but we have bigger egos than ladies, they always know better than everybody else, right? And he was telling me that he saw online that all these golfers that are a little bit better than him are doing all these sport-specific exercises to increase their head speed of their club and all this kind of stuff so they can drive the ball better and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I'm not going to do it. And he wanted me to incorporate these exercises. And I said, look, I'm the pro. I know what I'm doing. My belief is this. We're going to work out to keep you strong in general so you don't get injured. And then you can go practice golf. That way you can practice and not get injured because you're stronger. And practicing golf is going to make you a better golfer. And we kept kind of butting heads, and I finally said, all right, I'm not going to work with you. We're not doing it your way. I'm the professional. So I'm a stickler with that. It's like I believe in strength training wholeheartedly. I work out year round. I love it. I love that my clients do it. Strength training is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself, bar none. It is not intended to necessarily specifically make you better at your sport. Practicing your sport is going to make you better at your sport. Okay? So I started this podcast talking about all those exercises and body parts, right? I did it so you can see that if you just do a general workout, like one that we all recommend, one that all the professionals recommend, show me one professional that doesn't have their clients doing a form of a squat, leg press, or deadlift. Show me a professional that doesn't have their clients doing some form of a chest press, fly, pull down. Show me a professional that doesn't write workouts incorporating bicep curls, tricep press downs, and shoulder raises. Show me a certified personal trainer. Yes, I keep changing it every time to make a point, that doesn't have their clients and trainees doing core, right? So those are the 10 major muscle groups. The glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, the pecs, the lats, the shoulders, the bis, the tris, and the core. If we're training those, we're training all of the major muscle groups to prepare us for sport, for life, for whatever. And I just proved it with triathlon, right? Yet literally, and I kid you not, that was a workout written for a triathlete in a person's strength book, and the person I do respect. But he even goes on to say, if you just train generally, you're good for everything. He says that, and it's true, but people they want those specifics. So I literally pulled it out of his workout book, and it's so funny because all you have to do is train the basic movements, the 10 major muscle groups that we've been talking about for so long. And you can train them in a isolated manner, doing all the isolation exercises that I mentioned. Or you can train them together, which is less exercises, doing compound versions. But you're going to be working those muscle groups. Now, if you want to get better at your sport, you need to practice your sport. That's the only way to it. And for most, isn't that enough? I mean, when you think about a triathlete's schedule, I've done a lot of triathletes, and I got friends that are real competitive, and they do a lot of work. They're swimming 3 times a week, and they're usually going to master's classes, which are really hard, and they push you for 60 to 90 minutes. They're biking 3 to 4 times a week. And 1 time a week, it's a pretty long ride, 2.5, 3 hours. And they're running 3 times a week, sometimes 4. Because they're doing what's called a brick workout, which means that they're running a little bit off of the bike. Say after their long bike, they're doing 10 minutes or maybe even longer of a run. And one of their runs is pretty long. So a triathlete's schedule is really full. And yes, I definitely advise doing strength training, but for the manner of keeping yourself generally strong. I have a friend, she's very competitive. She does a boot camp at the YMCA on Mondays and Wednesdays, and they do general strength training. That's great. Yeah, that's what it's all about. If you start incorporating in all of these sport-specific exercises for triathlon, thinking that you're like doing something special for your sport, you're just going to overtrain. Just really, really, really keep it simple. All right. And I saw one of these workouts the other day on social media too, and I had a laugh, and I clicked on it and I'm like, well, this is going to be an absolute general workout. And of course, it absolutely was. All right. So hope you had a little bit of fun with this. I know it started out a little bit stale because I'm listing all of these exercises, and talking about exercises in that manner, I know could be a little bit stale, but I had to do that to make a point, right? I couldn't just tell you that all of these exercises that are advised for these 3 particular disciplines are incorporated if you do a general workout. You kind of had to hear it for yourself, right? And then you can go, wait a minute, I'm noticing a trend right here. Like before we even got to the last part of the run, we've covered the whole body, right? So keep it simple. Learn to go to the gym and keep yourself in shape, generally speaking. Remember that a lot of people cherry pick different principles to kind of like make something more of them than what they are. We don't need to be complicating working out. We really, really don't. We need to get everybody working out in the gym, having fun, getting better. We don't need to be complicating things, okay? So watch who you listen to, watch who you read, watch who you follow on social media, and that's very important. Now, let me thank my second sponsor, chiropractic physician Dr. Doris Antos of Ormond Beach, and she's an athlete and keeps herself in great shape as well. She has her office on Granada. She is a graduate of Palmer College, and she works with all different types of people. And as I've said many times, don't just go to a chiropractor when you're hurt. It's good to keep them in your regular repertoire. Just like massage, it's good to have recovery built in. I will put all of her information in the show notes as well. And please, download these episodes, subscribe and download. That helps me. That's the way that Spotify and Apple Pod, which are my 2 biggest generators out there, that's how they track it. That's how they know if I'm listened to. And if I'm listened to, it really helps me with the finances, okay? So I enjoy doing these podcasts, and I always encourage you to please hit me up for questions. I enjoy them. Please just help me back and subscribe to the show. You don't have to pay the upgrade on Spotify to subscribe. Don't worry about that if you don't want to spend the $60 a month or a year, whatever it is. You don't have to. Just subscribe and then click download. And then make it really simple, do automatic download. That way, as soon as my episode is up, it's downloaded. All right? That doesn't cost you anything. So I appreciate it. And until next time, be max fit, be max well.